Let's get into it. What a week. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny died on Friday at the Arctic penal colony where he was serving a sentence of more than 30 years. Tell me about it. He never let me finish my sentences either, said Putin's ex-wife. Yep. Exactly. That's right. Terrible. That was a little insensitive. And now a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Love It or Leave It is brought to you by the new true crime podcast, Who Killed Alexei Navalny? Russian officials claim he died of sudden death syndrome, but what if that story is just that? A story. Navalny, it turns out, had enemies in pretty high places. In this one-part, 15-second docuseries, we investigate the mysterious death of Vladimir Putin's biggest political rival as we try to answer the question, could Navalny have been killed by the dictator who also poisoned him and then locked him away in a remote prison camp on manufactured charges? Listen to Who Killed Alexei Navalny wherever you get your podcasts. I don't know. All right. Police in Russia have detained hundreds who are paying tribute to Navalny at ad hoc memorials. I hope they don't catch this sudden death syndrome that's been going around. Navalny's wife on Monday vowed to continue her husband's crusade against Putin because behind every great man is a great woman, and behind her is a guy with a syringe. Yeah. I'm taking the note. Western leaders quickly condemned Putin, with President Biden saying on Friday, make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Biden wasn't born yesterday, after all. Sure, it'd be cool if it had been a little bit closer to yesterday. But it is what it is. Meanwhile, Trump avoided commenting on Navalny's death for days, finally surfacing to compare the dissident's brutal persecution to his own legal troubles in a town hall with Fox News personality and person who cuts you in line at the Upper East Side Cinderella and then says, sorry, I'm just in a rush, before arguing with the cashier when you were going to buy literally one thing. Laura Ingraham.
People around the world are expressing outrage over the death of Alexei Navalny, of course, in a horrific Russian prison. You posted on Truth Social about it. You said that his death made you more aware of the political circumstances here at home.
It's happening here.
We all have that friend who thinks the way you show empathy is by saying, oh, that's exactly like what happened to me, you know? You say, like, I've been feeling more and more like I chose the wrong career. And they say, oh, me too. I love my job, but it's been such a frustrating week. And it's like, no, bitch, listen. You know? You don't have to fucking me too every part of the conversation. Sometimes I'm just having an experience. But if Trump's comparison was too subtle, he went further.
Now, in this New York civil fraud case, this Judge Arthur Engeron ruled against you for almost $500 million plus interest that runs every day. When I first read this, like $87,000 a day. How will you put up that kind of money? Because you have a bond to put up. Even if you appeal, you got to put up escrow money. That's it's a lot of dough.
It is a form of Navalny.
It's a Navalny. God damn it. It's no wonder Trump is feeling vexed. New York Attorney General Letitia James, Tish from Brooklyn, said on Tuesday that if Trump doesn't have the funds to pay his penalties, she's prepared to seize his buildings. Trump Tower, affordable housing, baby. Lobbies a public library, gender-affirming care, and the office he rented to that guy who does his weave. Let's fucking go. I ate in that basement restaurant once. Before. Yuck. Terrible layout, too. Just forgetting the building. Let's make it a nice little food court down there, you know? It's very vertical. The escalator, famously. Moving on. Trump also, I just think we could do great things in there, you know? Don't want to overcorrect. Trump also took a moment to further humiliate America's most humiliated man who happened to be in the audience.
Tim Scott, he has been much better for me than he was for himself. I watched his campaign.
Oh. Tim Scott waved back with his arm around an invisible woman. Tim Scott was then asked about this moment today, on Thursday.
Senator Trump has said that that you campaign better for him than you do for yourself. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that the whole concept of James 4:10, which I struggled with on the campaign trail, my campaign, we've had lots of conversations publicly and privately about the importance of how do you exalt yourself and promote yourself while remaining humble. I've struggled with that on the campaign trail. Now, having a conversation about the future of America and President Trump being that leader is very easy. There's no internal conversation about when are you doing too much self-promotion. So the truth of the matter is that I'm far better encouraging and being excited and motivated for President Trump than I was for myself, so I don't have that internal debate going on.
Wow. Just truly like new levels of cringe being unlocked daily by this guy. If Tim Scott's presidential campaign was the original cringe game, Tim Scott's VP campaign is the cringe DLC that finally perfects the promising but ultimately flawed cringe mechanics from the first launch. That was for no one. And look, I know these people are full of shit, and I know it's not the point, but the idea that you are going to say that because of what the Bible taught you about humility, you are better able to campaign for Donald Trump. I am a gay-ass Jewish person who only goes to church for weddings and to use the bathroom in New York City and drink the delicious water they leave out. And I find this galling. Oh, you learned from the Bible that it's important to be humble, and that helped you relieve any internal contradictions you had about trying to make Donald Trump the most powerful person in the fucking world. Who buys this? James 4:10. I went and looked it up. I don't know James 4:10, neither do any of you people. James 4:10, I guess it's okay. Anyway, Trump took his humble operation to SneakerCon in Philadelphia to introduce his new shoe line. Yeah, that's right. The shift has been gradual, but experts project that by 2030, Donald Trump and Kanye West will be the same guy. If you score a pair, just be careful not to get any liberal tears on them because you can't get them wet. Trump's shoes, called Never Surrender High Tops, are gold, feature his T logo, an American flag, and cost $399. I think we have a photo. And I'm going to say this. They're fucking cool. I love them. Shut up. They're good. I like those shoes. Elizabeth Warren sold them. They'd be on my feet right now. Trump is also selling a new fragrance called Victory, which the site describes as the signature scent of strength and success, designed for the decisive and the bold. And it sprays from the anal glands as a defense mechanism whenever a district attorney is nearby. If you get Victory on you, tomato sauce. Meanwhile, Trump's second-term agenda has been taking shape, and the shape is that of a forceps held by the worst kid in your college Roman history class. Too specific. I see the problem. The Center for Renewing America, a think tank with close ties to Trump, has drawn up its list of top priorities for a second term, which includes the bullet point, Christian nationalism. What would that mean in practice? Well, if these goons have their way, it could mean overturning gay marriage, reducing access to contraceptives, ending sex education in schools, banning surrogacy, ending no-fault divorce, and making the screaming albino monk from the Da Vinci Code Secretary of Health and Human Services. This follows a ruling by the Alabama Supreme Court, which declared that frozen embryos should be considered children under state law and that someone could be held liable for destroying them under Alabama's Wrongful Death of a Minor Act. Chief Justice Tom Parker wrote, "Human life cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God, who views the destruction of his image as an affront to himself. Even before birth, all human beings bear the image of God, and their lives cannot be destroyed without effacing his glory." Hey, real quick, are there any lawyers here? Judicial opinions usually end with amen. The decision was the result of a wrongful death case put forward by couples whose frozen embryos were accidentally destroyed. Here's what happened, and this is real. In 2020, a hospital patient wandered into the fertility clinic. The patient then removed some embryos from a cryogenic nursery. Since the containers with the embryos were painfully cold, the patient dropped the embryos on the floor, which destroyed them. In a sane world, the court wouldn't have ruled that destroying a frozen embryo is the same as killing a person. The court would have ruled that hospitals must have adequate defenses against Mr. Bean. The ruling could have major implications for fertility treatments like IVF, which entail creating and freezing multiple embryos to give a patient the best chance of becoming pregnant. And indeed, the University of Alabama at Birmingham Health System announced Wednesday that it was pausing IVF treatments. Said the health system, "We are saddened that this will impact our patients' attempt to have a baby through IVF, but we must evaluate the potential that our patients and our physicians could be prosecuted criminally or face punitive damages for following the standard of care for IVF treatments." 2 more clinics in the state dropped offering IVF treatments the next day, with more likely to follow. There could soon be no IVF at all available in a state of 5 million people. Look, it's very simple. Every woman should be a mother unless she actively wants to be one, then she should go fuck herself. Motherhood should be an unwelcome accident that ruins your life, like a car crash or texting the person you were trying to talk shit about. The Republican position is clear. No babies for people who want them, and lots of babies for people who do not. Said one official, "With any luck, in 18 years, no child in this country will be loved." Republicans will now be forced to answer for yet another devastating and deeply unpopular consequence of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. They really goofed up the order on this one. You gotta install a dictator and cancel the elections, then take away all the rights. It's the wrong order, you fucking dummies. Among the 1 in 6 Americans who have struggled with fertility issues, former Vice President Mike Pence, whose family turned to IVF and who told Politico last year that he fully supports the practice. If you create an embryo by fucking, then it's a human life. If you create an embryo by looking at pictures of Doris Day until the heavenly release, while your wife waits in the clinic lobby, it's just cells. Looking at photos of Doris Day until the heavenly release. Tim Scott, in the same press availability where he talked about humility making it easy to support Trump, was also asked about this ruling.
The Alabama Supreme Court ruled that embryos are children. That's raised questions over whether in vitro fertilization can move forward. Is that a stance that you agree with?
Well, I haven't studied the issue, so I'm going to let Nikki Haley continue to go back and forth on that issue. But
Senator Trump.
I'm sorry. First of all, just a swing at Nikki Haley. I'm sorry, I haven't studied the issue. The issue is directly and obviously implicated by the policies I support and say are central to my worldview. I am for declaring fertilized eggs human life, but I haven't really thought about what happens after that. I like setting fires, but I don't really know what fire is. I don't understand the science of it at all. I don't even know if a fire is the light above the wood, or is it the wood? Where is the fire? Anyway, I've never had sex. Is it the burning, or is it the light above the burning? And maybe it's just the heat. Where does the wood go? Meanwhile, where does the wood go? Meanwhile, shut up. Meanwhile, Trump's last Republican challenger standing, Nikki Haley, held a campaign event in South Carolina where she vowed to fight on regardless of the results of the primary in her home state.
South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere. I'm campaigning every day until the last person votes.
I'm not going anywhere. Not to the White House, not anywhere. Haley went on to say this.
Many of the same politicians who now publicly embrace Trump privately dread him. They know what a disaster he's been and will continue to be for our party. They're just too afraid to say it out loud. Well, I'm not afraid to say the hard truths out loud. I feel no need to kiss the ring.
Good, because I'm a little busy here, said Tim Scott, fully deep-throating that beautiful ring. I'm sorry, everybody. In response to her comments, a Trump spokesperson said, she's going to drop down to kiss ass when she quits like she always does. Many took issue with her needing to drop down to kiss ass European style instead of picking the ass up and kissing it while standing American style. Nikki Haley isn't using the continental grip. And by the way, in life, if you think someone is ultimately going to do what you want them to do, don't dare them not to do it. You always come crawling back is not the hero's line. Just saying. Also, I don't kiss the ring. You did for a really long time. Why do you pretend? Just 6 months ago, you were kissing the ring. You raised your hand when you said you'd vote for him if he'd been convicted. That was a ring kiss. Meanwhile, as the general election comes into stark relief, CNN reported on Tuesday that President Biden had given his staff new marching orders in his re-election bid.
We are told that the thrust of the president's direction was to significantly ramp up the campaign's efforts to highlight the crazy shit that Trump says in public.
First of all, there was a time, feels like weeks ago, where you couldn't just say shit on CNN. But whatever. This also cuts two ways. People hearing Trump say crazy shit in public is how we got President Trump, but it's also how we got rid of President Trump. It's a pickle. One source within the Biden campaign said the president himself even went as far to rise up from his seat, walk up to the strategy whiteboard, and erase the entire section labeled "More Dog Attacks." Yes, that's right. According to internal Secret Service documents, Commander Biden bit Secret Service personnel in at least 24 separate incidents at the White House and elsewhere, far more than previously reported. Biden, fine, you're not too old. Just call off your dogs. If you don't want Commander to bite, then why make agents meat-flavored? Asked President Biden. 24 times! That's too many times! That's more times than we've joked about Commander biting people, and we do that all the time. I only get to bite people 6 times before Tommy bonks me on the nose with a rolled-up newspaper. Wrote one agent in an email last June, the recent dog bites have challenged us to adjust our operational tactics when Commander is present. Please give lots of room. The email also warned that agents must be creative to ensure our own personal safety. Now is my time to shine, said the one Secret Service agent who went to Brown. Other creative tactics included yelling "fetch" at Commander, then throwing the nuclear football down the hallway. One of the more severe incidents outlined in the report took place on July 29, 2023. Commander was off-leash in Rehoboth Beach, and bit a special agent on the left forearm, causing a severe, deep, open wound. The attack caused the agent to lose a significant amount of blood. You're on the ground. You're bleeding out. You're starting to lose consciousness. You're wondering if you have enough strength to call your wife and say goodbye. And all of a sudden, the President of the United States is standing over you saying, he's never like this. But something's working for our boy Joe, because President Biden held a slight lead over Trump in a new Quinnipiac poll this week, 49% to Trump's 45%. In response to the news, a frantic President Biden was seen darting around the White House, asking aides, why, what was the last thing I did? Was it confusing the names of world leaders? I can do that. The President of Canada's name, Barney Butterscotch. Check the polls again. Did that do anything? We also would have accepted Frankie Poutine. Respondents did say Trump seemed more physically fit than Biden, which may not make a difference in the presidential debates, but the presidential Ninja Warrior games are just around the corner. Also this week, the president announced the cancellation of an additional $1.2 billion in student loan debt for about 153,000 borrowers. Awesome, I can finally quit this job and pursue my dream of not getting bitten by dogs every day, said that Secret Service agent who went to Brown. Biden has now canceled a total of $138 billion in student debt from nearly 3.9 million borrowers through executive actions, despite the Supreme Court's ruling that stopped the larger program he hoped to implement. On Wednesday, borrowers received an email from the president informing them, if you qualify, you'll be hearing from me shortly. Behind one door, President Biden holding a check. Behind the other door, President Biden holding the leash of a dog he cannot control. Apple has formally warned against immersing your wet iPhone in a bowl of uncooked rice, saying that the practice could allow small particles of rice to damage your iPhone. While I, Jon Lovett, would like to remind you, you can still eat the rice afterwards. No one can see you in your house. No one knows what you're doing when you're alone. In other news, Air Canada's website apparently featured an AI-powered chatbot after the chatbot made up a fake rebate offer that tricked a customer into buying a plane ticket. The company tried to argue that the chatbot was responsible for its own actions. Well, this week, a Canadian court said that it is not the case, and Air Canada owes that customer money. hey, we're not responsible for what our machines do doesn't exactly give you confidence in Air Canada. Of course, this ruling will only apply in Canada. It remains to be seen whether companies in the US will be allowed to use what is literally the same defense as ventriloquists use when their dummies do insulting crowd work. In other plane news, Boeing has ousted the head of the company's 737 MAX program in the wake of a door panel blowing off a 737 MAX 9 mid-flight last month. The executive landed on a roof outside Cleveland. That's, of course, ridiculous. He had a golden parachute. Unlike the rest of us passengers. A private space mission landed on the surface of the moon Thursday carrying 125 steel sculptures of the moon itself, made by artist Jeff Koons. That's right, our greatest artist has crafted some tiny moon sculptures because they're going to the moon. Koons is making an interesting statement with this work, and that statement is moon. All right, listen. We let you put those fucking balloon dogs in the Bellagio lobby. That tracks to me. You don't get to represent us on other planets. No, it's not a planet. It's a moon. Also this week, scientists discovered that what was thought to be a 280 million year old dinosaur fossil is largely a forgery shaded to look like an ancient bone. But why tell us this, is my question. Let us live in our life of delusion. We don't need to know that some dinosaur skeleton is just a chicken bone with a smoky eye. Let us live in happiness. Researchers had assumed that the fossil discovered in Italy in 1931 had a dark color from genetic material, only to realize the few bones present had been made to look old with black paint and carved rock. Oh no, Giuseppe, our fake bones! They've found us! Kiss me, Giuseppe. It's the last accent you're allowed to do. You know, I don't know why. I don't make the rules. It's probably wrong. And maybe at some point in the future, I'll apologize for this. But not yet. And finally, a Colorado man died after being bitten by his pet Gila monster. Responded President Biden, I'd like to make an offer on this Gila monster. I'll call him Commander Monster.